Guys, welcome to my very deserted YouTube channel. I felt the need to make a video because frankly this is just too long for Instagram, and if you have been following me recently then you know that I'm starting to post more on Instagram in the hopes that it can kind of become like a mini blog, because I just don't really feel like getting back on my actual blog just because it feels very unreachable. It's out of date. It's hard to tell people like, oh, if you want to know more about this, you need to go click the link in my bio. I don't know. I'm just really feeling Instagram at the moment. So I have been sharing a lot about what this time last year was like for me, because I really was just too in the thick of it this time last year to explain and be giving updates and let people in and be vulnerable and explain what was happening. So now just feels like the right time, and it's really been on my heart to kind of open up about everything and share it out into the world, because it's so much a part of my story and it's so much a part of other people's stories, and it could be very, 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 very helpful. I would go so far as to say life-saving for somebody else to hear my story and just things that I've been through, because I think it could help you spot these things in somebody else or even yourself. So today's video is going to be kind of about my experience with eating disorder recovery, condensed into more so what happened a year ago when I entered treatment for the first time and was in like very intensive treatment, just because I feel like the type of things that I'll touch on could be things that you might even notice in yourself if you're kind of going through a disordered eating journey. And I watched videos like this when I was in that space, and that was very helpful for me to see like, oh, this is so not normal what's happening, but it's also so fixable, and I'm not broken. I'm gonna be okay, and there's a journey to go out of this. So I'll just start back with a little bit of background info. I did actually start treatment in like July of 2017 the first time. I just to sum it up, I mean, I wasn't as bad as I would ever be, and so really at that time I was good enough to just go to a dietitian, a non-diet dietitian, and get with her about developing a meal plan and kind of working towards intuitive eating. And the story there, maybe some of you know if you follow me because I have mentioned this, is that she went to go on maternity leave for several months, and she offered to set me up with somebody else while she was gone, and I just decided not to. I felt fine. I felt like I was on a good path, and then the nature of the disease is it just really wants to take you down, and it's very persistent. So I ended up having a relapse and was really sick by like October of, I guess it was, and then so now we're gonna talk about March 2018, which is a year ago from like today. Or not today, but right now, when I when I was gonna say went back, into treatment, but it was like pretty forced upon me, which was good actually, because I was just very, very, very sick, at a very super low weight. By the way, I won't mention any numbers in any of these videos, any of my posts ever, because I don't believe that that's helpful for somebody. Just weight numbers, none of that. But I was at a dangerously low weight, and the first thing I did was go back to my dietitian, and she talked to me for a few minutes and was like, yeah, you're bad enough like to go to the hospital. Like there to give you, or to give people who aren't familiar, kind of a little bit of background, there are different levels of treatment kind of depending on the severity of your case, depending on what you and or your family may wish to do, and then also insurance, honestly. And this stuff is not covered by insurance usually. It's not really seen by insurance agencies as something that is coverable or medically necessary, which is crazy, and that's something that I kind of really want to. I live by the street, so somebody's just blasting music. Anyway, yeah, I was just gonna go on. It's probably good I stopped. I was just gonna like ramble about healthcare. Anyway, so I was told that I was bad enough to do hospitalization, or IOP, which is, I'm not even going to try to remember what it stands for, but it's partial hospitalization is what you can do, and you can like come in every single day from like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. or something like that. Neither of those I wanted to do because I was 6 weeks away from graduating college and I really, really wanted to graduate. I was working an internship. It's actually where I work now, so I really wanted to pursue the full-time opportunity that they were going to give me. So the bargain that I made with my dietitian is that I would continue to see her every single week, and then I would also go to a therapist and an eating disorder specialist, which is basically a medical doctor who specializes in eating disorders. So they are going to view, do your checkups, but they're going to view from the lens of eating disorders and the types of things that you may have complications with because of the disease, like bone mass, low blood sugar, liver functions, bad kidneys, bad like your heart, and all of that. I know I'm articulating it very well, but it's very serious. So I wanted this to be an Instagram caption, but wrote it like, sorry, someone called me. I couldn't make it concise, so that's kind of what prompted the video. But the first time that I went to my eating disorder specialist, I was warned that she was going to be very, very blunt. She wasn't going to sugarcoat anything, but it was all for the benefit of you, because you being the patient, needed to realize kind of the severity of your case and what kind of work it was going to take for you to get better. And so I probably talked to her for half an hour, telling her kind of my background and my story, much like I'm doing now. And she told me within that first like quarter of the appointment that I was dying, that my body was shutting down. And I tell this story not because it's morbid or scary, but because it's the truth in a lot of these cases. And I think that if we as a collective society realized what intense dieting and or excessive over exercise can do to our bodies, then we would kind of change the messaging and the rhetoric around a lot of what we're putting out there. So my body, and this is what happens in not every case, but specifically severe anorexia nervosa, like I had, my body was shutting down. She gave me the analogy, she said, imagine that your body is a house and you are in the winteriest winter, you're in a blizzard, you're in Colorado or somewhere super cold. I don't know, I feel like Colorado's probably not the coldest place anyway. And it's an old house and it's operated only by a wood burning stove. And you have used up all your firewood, there's no more firewood, but you have to burn a fire to stay alive, to stay warm. So she asked me, what are you going to burn? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I sat there and honestly tried to think of an answer, but another thing about being so starved and being at this point in an eating disorder is your brain actually doesn't work the same anymore. I would be driving and forget where I was going because my brain was so hungry, like it can't function. Your brain needs carbs and energy to function. So of course I'm just like, I don't know. And she looks at me and she's like, the furniture. You start burning everything else in the house, all the things that you could possibly need, but you're gonna burn them to stay alive. Your bed, your clothes, your dresser, your chairs, your kitchen table, all of it. And that's what your body is doing. That's what she told me. And this was the first time, like, I was at a really bad place and I knew that kind of, but I didn't want to get better. And that's the hard part about eating disorders, is even when we're at our worst, we fight back against getting better, because getting better means the two things that I say we, people with eating disorders, but I'm also just generalizing, so if this isn't your story, I'm sorry, but we don't want to gain weight and we don't want to eat more. And that's like the two things you got to do to keep going, to get better, to weight restore, which essentially just to get back to a healthy weight, so that all your organs function properly and you're not in danger. Because I was, and that was really like difficult to hear, and there's a lot of shame around that, and I feel like that's why I felt like I needed, a lot of time to kind of process all of that just privately, like on my own. And then now I really want to share about it, because the things I was doing prior to really landing where I was this time last year, it wasn't because I was like, I hate myself, I'm like not going to eat, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to take good care of myself. That wasn't how it was for me. I was trying to take good care of myself, and it was, well, this says we shouldn't eat fat, and this says that we shouldn't eat carbs, and we should be keto, and we should do Whole30, and we should be vegan. And for years and years, I was trying to follow all of those truths, and like, where did it get me? In a doctor's office where I was told that I was dying. And that, again, is very harsh, and like, I'm being very frank right now, but I just think it's so important because I know where I started, and now I see other people, random people on the street, people that I do personally know, you know, just kind of mimicking these behaviors sometimes, and I know that it can be stopped, and I wish that I could sit them down and tell them my story and tell them about the time that I had to sit in a doctor's office and be told that like I needed to get it together or I was not going to be there anymore. And not like in a way that it was my fault, but just in a way to kind of shake me and say, this is the reality of what's happening in your body right now. So to go on about being in the doctor, I again can't speak on anybody's experience if they have gone to a treatment facility, because I have never been to a treatment facility. I do hear great things about them, honestly, like they really, really help a lot of people. I just didn't go. But when I was doing this like outpatient treatment where I was going to an ED specialist, I would come in and we would talk for a little bit. The first hour or the first like half of the appointment is kind of like normal talk therapy, when you're just like, this is what's going on in my life, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way, this is how I'm doing with eating and following my meal plan, this is what stressful things might be happening in my life. And then the second half of the appointment is where they do normal things like they do at the doctor's office, look in your ears, look in your eyes, check your reflexes, and then there's a couple other things that they might add in, just to check things that could potentially be like specifically wrong just because of the eating disorder. For example, every time I go in, I have to hold out my hands, close them very, very tightly, and then let go. And when you let go, you'll see that the pink flesh color will return to my white hands very quickly, because blood is flowing. I'm healthy right now, and blood is flowing very quickly through. So you can see that it gains color, regains its color pretty fast. But when I was very sick, I would go like this and go like this, and it would take very slowly for it to come back. Also checking my limbs, like if my fingertips are kind of, I mean, I have nail polish on right now, but like if they were blue, same with my feet, because the blood isn't flowing. They check your heart rate and your blood pressure, both sitting and standing, because a lot of times something that can happen in eating disorder patients is their heart rate goes up super suddenly really quickly when they stand up, because that and alone is like so much energy being exerted. And I was exhausted when I was sick. I wasn't supposed to take the stairs, and I also had to walk like half a mile on campus. I mean, half a mile or something, just to like go to my classes. And my doctor was like, can you get a wheelchair, because you shouldn't be doing that. Like, you need to conserve every ounce of energy because you have none. And obviously, if you do Weight Watchers for a week, I'm not saying this is gonna happen to you or whatever, but I'm kind of just talking from a lens of, this is how it can get when we forget that the society out there, I don't know what to call it, in the recovery community we call it diet culture, because we live in a very diet-ridden, cultured world where we're all about making ourselves smaller and eating as less as possible or as little as possible. And while for some who may be lucky, that doesn't end up being super detrimental to their overall health, you might be somebody like me. I'm very smart, I'm a perfectionist, I'm a rule follower, and I want to do the very best at everything. And for me, it led me to an eating disorder. So it's hard for me to speak about it because I don't like to have strong opinions about anything. I'm like very agreeable. I am Switzerland on everything. But I've just felt such a calling to like talk about my story and tell people what happened with me, like what really happened, not the like, and not sugarcoat it either, and not tell you that I was fine and I got better and I just pushed through it and whatever. Like, there is so much work that goes behind this and so many appointments, and it's crazy. I have a post, I'll link to it in the description box, but I have a post that I think I'll leave you guys with because I actually have to go. What time is it? Oh my gosh, my watch is dead. I have to go. But I'll leave you guys with a post that I put on my Instagram a few months back, because part of me going to this eating disorder doctor was that I needed to also get labs done every week. So I would go to like a lab Quest or Quest Diagnostics or whatever once a week in the morning after I'd eaten breakfast to get my labs done. So I honestly couldn't tell you all the things they checked for, but it was all sorts of things that would be wrong with me because of the eating disorder. Like, for example, when I got them done the first time, I measured having the estrogen levels of like a 9-year-old girl, because again, I was so underweight, I had lost my period, all of that stuff. So I was going every week, and towards the very, very end, when I like was finally getting better, sorry, I thought my sister pulled up. It's not her. Towards the very end, when I was getting better, the nurse, she was the same nurse who always took my labs for me, she looked at me and she was like, you look so much better. Like, when you walked in here, you were so pale. And again, this is something that I never noticed about myself. I notice now, like in pictures, and my family would comment like, oh, you have so much color, like your face looks so good. And I was like, okay. Like, I couldn't notice kind of until I heard this nurse who I didn't even know she really remembered me. She was just like, I mean, you were in bad shape when you came in here. And I knew that I'd never talked to her about why I was there, but she probably knew because the orders for the labs came from my doctor, and she has like letters behind her name and a title that she works with eating disorders, so she probably knew. But yeah, that kind of goes to show how that part of my treatment really, really helped. And therapy and going to a non-diet dietitian, which I would love to do more videos or posts on later. So if you have any questions, this was kind of long and rambly, and I'm not sure if I like got a good positive message across, but frick diet culture, eat food, eat 3 meals and at least 3 snacks a day, says Mom Cristina. And yeah, thanks for letting me be vulnerable, and I hope that you guys enjoyed.